There was no one in the men's locker room. I looked around cautiously and went straight to Dev's locker. I was about to open his locker when I heard voices. They were already close. I don't have time to run away. They'll notice. I was in a panic. Suddenly, I saw an empty locker. As soon as I closed the door behind me, the guys came into the locker room. I managed it. I recognized Dev's voice. I heard him telling someone that he had already thought of everything and it was time to have fun at the headmaster today, during the New Year's party. I froze in horror because the headmaster is my father. What do these freaks want to do with him? Dev added that things didn't go very smoothly with the chemistry teacher. They were almost burned down. We'll have to be more careful this time. I was barely breathing from the strain. Last week, there was a rumor that the chemistry teacher had a big fight with Dev, and then she went to the hospital with a broken spine. Oh my god. If Dev and the squad had hurt her, what would they do to my father? The boys' voices immediately faded, and I heard footsteps approaching. Oh man. I couldn't even imagine what would happen to me if I got caught. Through the crack, I saw that Dev was very close. I have to run. I pushed the door open and ran away. The guys were chasing me. I ran into the women's bathroom and locked myself in the toilet. The bathroom door creaked and I heard men's voices. Someone came up and nervously tried to handle my stall. Oh god, I'm trapped. And then bell rang. Hearing it, the boys quickly left the toilet, apparently afraid that they would be noticed. I looked out and suddenly saw the words "Keep silent or you're finished" written in blood red marker on the mirror. They'll do something to me if I tell everyone. But I have to save my father. I went to the headmaster's office. He had to find out before it was too late. Dad was annoyed that I distracted him. The New Year's party was already that night, and nothing was ready. Dad, you have to cancel everything. It's very important. I told my father everything and asked him to cancel the party as soon as possible. But he just smiled and said that I probably just don't want my father hanging around at the party. What's that got to do with it? You're in real danger. I asked my father to come with me so that he could see the inscription on the mirror. Maybe at least it would convince him. Dad reluctantly agreed. But when we went to the toilet, the inscription on the mirror was gone. Dev deliberately erased it. But there was one more clue. Let Dad watch the cameras as I was chased by these guys. My father was mad. He told me to go home and get ready for the holiday, and not to distract him anymore for nonsense. Dev's a fine guy. He wouldn't bully me. Dad left, and I didn't know what to do. I wanted to cry from impotence. Maybe at least Mom could convince Dad that he was in danger. I was about to go home when I heard a voice behind me saying, "Here you are." When I turned around, I saw Dev with a squad. And it seemed to me that one of them was holding something suspicious in his hands. Oh my god. They saw me talking to Dad. Now I'm finished. They were already approaching me, and I threw my backpack at Dev out of fear and rushed out of the school. I've never run so fast before. But Dev wasn't far behind. He won every race at school. I think I'm doomed. But I was close to home, just a little more. The guys were already a couple of meters away from me. I ran to the front door and yanked on the handle. It's closed. The boys were getting closer. A few seconds more and they'll grab me. And I ran to the back door. Mom sometimes forgets to lock it. Maybe I'll get lucky. I pulled the handle and it was open. I'm saved. Dev was already closed, but I managed to close the door right in front of his face. I locked the door and let out a sigh of relief. I listened for every sound. The boys stood in the backyard for a while, and then I heard footsteps, and they were gone. They leave me alone? I went up to my room. I have to wait for my mother and tell her everything. I heard a sound of a motor from the outside. I looked out the window. It was my mother's car. But to my horror, I noticed that Dev and his friends were standing on the other side of the street. Heck! I saw my mother taking the grocery bags out of the trunk. Dev walked up to her and said something. And then she was surrounded by everyone else. I thought Mom looked confused. Are they threatening her? But suddenly, she smiled and gave the guys heavy bags and waved her hand, inviting them to come in. Mom, what are you doing? Don't invite them in. I tried to pretend I wasn't there. It was noisy at first, but then it turned quiet. Maybe they've all gone. Suddenly, there was a knock on my door. I startled. My mother's voice came from the other side of the door. She said that my friends came to see me. Without opening the door, I quickly told her about the upcoming assassination attempt. We have to get rid of them urgently. My mom eerily sighed. She said I'd watched too many thrillers, and I could see the dangers out of the blue, and she added that it was indecent to talk through the door. Mom left, but a couple of minutes later, I heard another knock. Mom, I opened the door in frozen horror. There was Dev. I slammed the door in his face. What should I do? It was useless to hide, and all that remained was to run. I quickly opened the window and looked down. God, it's scary to jump. But I had no choice. I could hear Dev tugging on the door handle and shouting something. I squeezed my eyes shut and jumped down. I think I twisted my leg. It wasn't enough. I hobbled over to the neighbors to call the police, but they weren't home. Then, trying not to pay attention to the pain, I rushed to the police station. From the doorway, out of breath, I shouted that I was being chased and that an assassination attempt was being made on the headmaster during the New Year's party. They have to detain Dev and his squad immediately. They're already in my house. But the cops didn't react. One of them told me with a bored look that I can go. They will take control of everything. How? You didn't even ask anything. But the cops already kicked me out of the station. Tears of resentment and fear choked me. What should I do? And then I realized I have to save my father myself. I just don't have any other choice. I looked at my phone. I had 10 missed calls from my mom. Oh my god, what if something happened to her? I called her right back. I could hear the beeps. Mom, come on, answer me. Finally, I heard her voice. She angrily said that I had done something disgusting and had to go home. After this behavior, I don't deserve to go to the party. I'm sorry, Mom, but I have to. I hung up and ran to school. I think I have a plan. Before the party started, I sneaked into the security room and took the key to the biology classroom. And then I ran up to my dad and blurted out that I needed his help urgently. Someone let out rats in the lab to ruin the school party. My father immediately hurried there. He could not allow this to happen again. Dad came into the classroom and started checking the cages. But I locked the door. I'm sorry, Dad, but it's for your own good. My father was yelling for me to let him out, or I'd be in huge trouble. I saw in the window at the door how red his face was with anger. He abruptly stopped and looked at someone behind me. I turned around slowly. 2 policemen were standing behind me. Apparently, they were sent here after my message. But suddenly, they asked me to give them the key. No, you've got it all mixed up. I'm not the criminal. Dev is. I was caught. While one of the cops was trying to figure out why I locked up the headmaster, the other one let Dad out. As soon as my father left, Dev ran up to him and said the headmaster had to go down immediately. One of the students was feeling ill. Dad, no! I started to stop him, but the cop grabbed me hard. Then I pretended to lose consciousness, and the policeman slightly loosened his grip. That was enough. I ran down the steps. The cops ran after me. If only I could make it. There was no one on the first floor. Then I heard the sound of a gunshot, and then the girl screeching. Everything inside me collapsed. No, Dad! Dad! Panicking, I ran out the back door and into the yard. I saw the students watching the fireworks. And Dev was handing my dad a cake that said, 10 years of schoolwork. What does it all mean? What about the assassination attempt? I was knocked down by the cops. They were about to snap the handcuffs on my hands when my dad intervened. He said he seemed to understand what had happened and briefly explained them the situation. When they let me go, Dev came up to me and said I was a great runner, and it seemed like he did have a chance at the school race. He added, it's a pity that he and the guys didn't get to talk to me about the surprise. What about the chemistry teacher's spine? Dev said that after she went to the hospital with a broken spine, he and the guys decided to support her and set off fireworks under the ward's windows. And then he asked me what I was doing in the men's locker room that morning. I was embarrassed. And let's keep that, Dev, as my secret.